Hello, ladies. This is going to be a review of Unit 1. This first segment is going to be about the reading skills and the strategies and techniques that we can use to improve our language learning. So we're going to start reviewing reading techniques. Let's remember that we have two main reading techniques. First of all, we have skimming. Yes, it's when you want to read quickly. Yes, remember that skimming and scanning are both two techniques that are good to read quickly. Yes, fast. So they are not to read. They are not to read in detail. No, they are to read quickly, very quickly to get the information. So we have skimming, which is to get the general idea. For example, you can get the notion if the text is a letter, or if the text is an article, or if the text is trying to persuade me, or what the main idea of the text is. That is going to be the general idea. And skimming is used when you read the table of contents, when you read the opening and closing sentences of paragraphs, when you read the titles and subtitles, and when you look at the illustrations or graphic features, pictures, etc., that you might find there. So, for example, if you're reading a magazine, you're going to be doing skimming to see what article you want to read. And then we have scanning, which is when you want to read something quickly for specific information. Scanning is for specific information, and we use this when you're looking for keywords with bold and print italics. Different sizes. Yes, we're going to look at the sizes of the letters, if they are in bold or not, and to bullet information. We use scanning, for example, when we have a question. Yes, if the question for the reading comprehension activity or the question about the content I am studying is specific, for example, who is the author of the book, then we're going to use scanning because I can go quickly to the text and check and look specifically for the name of the author, dates, for example, etc., any type of specific information. If you're looking for a word in a dictionary, that it's also scanning. So we have skimming and scanning. Skimming, general idea; scanning, specific idea to read quickly in a text. Then we move on to skimming and scanning. That's a video that we had in the class. Then we move past skimming and scanning and we go to reading strategies. This unit, we studied 6 different reading strategies, and we're going to look at them now. So this is a reading strategy that we can also find in as a listening strategy. The idea of using prior knowledge previewing has to do with activating information in our brains about the topic that the text might be about. So, for example, I have a piece of news or an article, etc., with this picture. I look at the picture, I look at the poster, I look at the title, and using skimming, I can get very quickly what the text is going to be about. Yes, what do I know about this topic? What information, what language will I need to know or to remember in order to understand this text better? Yes, this using prior knowledge is also important so that your brain, your bilingual brain, is able to know what type of language they can expect and what to pay attention to. Predicting. This is like the next step after previewing. So you preview, you get the topic of the text, what you know about the text, and after that you can make an inference and predict with only the clues in the title, in the pictures. You can predict what the text will be about. Yes, this is when you already take a stance and you make a decision and an inference, thinking what the text will be about. I think the text will be about women's rights, and you can deduce what the information that you're going to find there is. Number 3, identifying the main idea. And here we use skimming as well. Here you're going to actually read the text, but very quickly, maybe the first line, the closing line of the paragraph, yes, and any other important information. And when we're doing skimming, this is a quick read through, and without using a dictionary. That it's very important, yes, when we are doing skimming and we're getting the main idea of the text, we do not use the dictionary. Yes, I don't stop the reading. I just read most of the ideas very quickly. With this strategy, I can know what the topic of the text is, what type of text is it. Remember, when we in English talk about the type of text, we refer to the format. In this case, this is a piece of news. Yes, who's the audience? We can certainly identify the audience of the text based on the font, the source, etc. We can identify the purpose when we focus on the main idea, and we can identify what the text is about in general. Strategy number 4, questioning. Yes, this is something that we normally naturally do when we are reading or when we are listening to something. Yes, generally you have implied questions in your brain. Generally, these questions are a little bit invisible when they are not natural, because it just happens to us because the text naturally is making us curious, yes? But when we are studying, when we are reading a text in English, or when we are studying any text or any video, etc., remember that when we talk about text, it can be written text, it can be visual text, it can be a spoken text, etc. When we're reading a text or when we are listening to a text, sometimes we need to stop and force, yes, the questioning stage, the questioning strategy, because sometimes it doesn't come naturally, yes? So in that case, it's very important that we are able to formulate questions when we are reading. Even if it's a non-fiction type of text, you should be able to stop and ask questions. So how does this work? How can I do an experiment with this? How do I say it in everyday life? What will happen to Pepita in the story? Who's going to be the bad guy, etc. Yes. Then the 5th strategy is making inferences. Again, this is a process that the brain does very quickly and naturally, but sometimes we need to do it on purpose. Yes, we need to say, okay, so what can I infer from here? Sometimes it comes naturally, some other times we need to make it happen. So an inference is when I take the background knowledge, general knowledge that I have from existing as a human being in this planet. Yes, this is what I know from life. And then we have also the text clues. Yes, the text clues are, of course, the information that it's explicit in the text. Yes, with the explicit information in the text, plus the information I already know, I can make inferences and get some other piece of information. So let's remember this example that I like very much, that I found online, about the footprints. Yes, we have some footprints on the soil, yes, on the ground, in a forest. So it has 4 toes. So I can say, an animal with 4 toes. The footprints are big, so maybe it's a big animal. Yes, there is a certain space between the footprints. So I can say, the animal was walking, was not running, because of the distance that the footprints have. Yeah, so that is an inference. You can make inferences with body language, and this is also something that you can do as a listening strategy, because you can infer from, if you have an audiovisual text, you can infer from the position of the characters and their body language, but you also can make inferences from the clues in the text. For example, in the tone of voice that the characters use when they are speaking in a listening. And those clues also can help you make inferences, even though they are not in a listening, at least explicit. And finally, we have visualizing. Visualizing is imagining in your head what you're reading in this case. Of course, we can use visualizing with listening as well. Yes, basically, it's when I can have a picture in my mind of what is happening. This might be very common, especially to people who have a tendency to learning, who are visual learners. Yes, visual learners are going to find this very easy and very common for them. If you're not a visual learner, this might be more difficult for you, but you can exercise it by stopping the text and picturing it. Yes, visualizing has to do with imagining it. So, for example, if you have a movement or a situation like nodding, nod is asentir, you can do it. So, nodding. So, she said nodding, and I imagine what she's doing, and I can do it if I want to. That it's also a way of visualizing the text and making it real for your brain. So this is what we covered today: the reading techniques, skimming and scanning, both for quick reading. And then we have some reading strategies. These can be for more in-depth, more profound reading, which is activating prior knowledge, yes, previewing the text, predicting the text, yes, asking what the text will be about, identifying the main idea, and summarizing the main idea by reading quickly using skimming, questioning, stopping reading the text so that you can formulate questions about the text. 5, making inferences, that is looking at what I know and the clues in the text to make the inferences, and finally visualizing, placing pictures in your head, even if it doesn't come naturally. That's the review for today. Thank you for paying attention, and see you around. Have a great time with your family and your loved ones.